Hello and welcome back to the Loyal Sun Show. That's at the Loyal Suns, wherever you get your social media. Follow us here and follow us there for Pitt sports content you will not want to miss. If you love this weekend slate of games and hate the union between the Big Ten and the SEC, this is the place for you. The Loyal Sun Show, a safe, sunshiny place for your Pitt Athletics fix. Squid Dylan, we have arrived at the halfway point of the season. And your Pittsburgh Panthers, that's right, the Pittsburgh Panthers that belong to the two of you, are undefeated still.
Still are.
Just as we all predicted.
Just as we all thought. No, I don't think anyone could have predicted where Pitt is in their wildest imagination. Could you imagine like getting in a time machine and telling yourself months ago that we'd be in the position that we're in now?
I was pretty pessimistic back in the dog days of spring. Not a whole lot to look forward to. And I was mad about it. I hate not being optimistic about Pitt, but I felt like it was pretty warranted pessimism.
Yeah, coming off of the 2023 season, I think going back to the preview episode, 6-6 was about what I predicted. Would I have been ecstatic about 6 wins this year? No. But if there was progress, I think we all felt like that would show that Pitt was moving back into the right direction. And then they shut us up and rattled off 6 straight to start the season, already bowl eligible. It kind of doesn't feel real right now. It feels like something that we would have made up in our heads 3 weeks before the season, before a normal season. This year, we were talking each other off the wedge constantly, not to get excited about this season. But on a normal season, this is the type of shit we would make up.
Yeah, no, this feels a little bit like a dream, but I'm starting to see, Pitt fans start to get a little greedy, kind of forget where we came from, and we've kind of lost perspective. And while it's great that we're starting to shoot for the stars now, I think we need to bring that perspective back to the loyal listeners. So, what we're going to do for you, our listeners, is a little bit of a role play, because I think we kind of forget it felt like.
Keep going.
Thank you, Dylan. A little bit of an improvisation. How about that? Better?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So just to remind everyone where we were just a few months ago, I am going to play the part of someone who just woke up from a coma, has lost their memory or something. And you guys are going to fill me in bit by bit on this season, just to reintroduce that perspective back to Pitt fans of how incredible it is that we are where we are, and a little reminder of how we started this season. So first things first, before we get into character, how did I get in this coma? How did I lose my memory?
David, last week you went down to the Nashville where they were holding the meetings between the Big Ten and the SEC. And upon arrival, you were trying to infiltrate and get to Greg Sankey, maybe make some threats to him about, their unbelievable demands of wanting 4 teams each in the playoff moving forward. Just generally threaten him about trying to ruin the sport that we all love. And then when they realized that you were an outsider, one of the ACC, they used all their new TV money from all their TV deals, and they now have the technology that they have in like Men in Black, and they just hit you with like a boom, you erase your memory for the last 3 months or so.
Okay, so this
and
is
then they beat you senseless until you would admit that beating an Illinois team who is quote unquote legit is a huge win.
okay. So the most realistic scenario we could come up with is I infiltrated the SEC Big Ten meeting and had my memory wiped so that I could not share the secrets within. That is what we're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, they only wiped the last how many months?
Let's call it since the summer.
Okay, so like the last 3 months are gone, but they wanted you to remember all the bad things that happened to Pitt last year.
Okay. So they did not remove the part of my brain that I would actually pay someone to lobotomize out of me.
Yeah, unfortunately, you still remember last season, and the last thing you remember is, let's say, Nate Yarnell and Pat Narduzzi going down to ACC Media Day.
Okay, got it. All right, ready?
And also, I'm going to be playing myself, but Jake Gyllenhaal will be playing me.
Honestly trying to wrap my head around that might put me in an actual coma. So why don't we go ahead and get started before any more confusion sets in?
Action. We're here back on the Loyal Sun Show. Squid here with David as well, although he is not currently conscious. He was trying to infiltrate Big Ten SEC meetings in Nashville. Was unfortunately beaten to a coma, and we have no clue what he can and can't remember. But unfortunately, his fiance propped him up for us so we could weekend at Bernie's this mid-season recap, and break it down from there. So, Squid, how do you feel about the slate this weekend?
It's great. I'm glad that Pitt has a bye
great,
week.
thank you, hillbilly greedy piece of shit.
Oh my God, it's a miracle.
Where am I?
You're recording the Loyal Sun Show, the safe, sun-shiny place for your Pitt Athletics fix.
What?
David, wait a second.
What day is it?
It's October 16th, Wednesday.
Of the year 2024?
Yes.
Yeah.
You've been in a coma for a couple months now. We were worried sick about you.
Well, that's incorrect. That's incorrect, Squid. He's been in a coma for a few days because those meetings were last week.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. But yeah, it is October. So if you didn't know that, we're starting off on a bad foot.
Wow.
David, what's the most recent thing you remember?
July. I remember it being summertime. I have a vague memory of, some flashing lights and some Southern accents mixed in with some gross Midwestern accents. But really, it's October. So
have you watched
the elections
games this year?
No, I had no idea that the season even started. So October 16th, we're probably like halfway through the season, right?
Yeah, we're staring down a bye week. We're exactly halfway through the season. Dang, you really don't remember any of that, huh?
No,
not even the Kent State game?
No, I feel like I'd remember our only win of the season, but I mean, the fact that we're even still recording this podcast tells me we won at least one more game. How are we looking? Does Deuce still have a job?
Oh, he's got a job
as a janitor at a high school in Youngstown.
Nope, as the Pitt Panthers head football coach, the old ball coach. David, now you're already sitting, but stay sitting for this because otherwise you would fall over. And also, freshly out of a coma, you should probably get some medical attention. But either way,
Get some water. Yeah.
yeah. We actually are back in on Pat Narduzzi.
We're back in on the dues.
We're all the way back in on him.
Would you believe me if I told you that earlier today David Hale did his mid-season awards and Pat Narduzzi was his choice for Coach of the Year?
I wouldn't believe you for a second, and it's very rude of you to play tricks on someone who just suffered a massively traumatic medical emergency. I can't believe he still has a job. Surely he leveraged his relationship with Heather Lyke to stay in that position.
Oh, about that.
Yeah, so Dues is here, and Heather's gone. Fired.
Yeah, you didn't kill her.
What? Heather Lyke, the most successful AD maybe in the history of this university, has been fired.
Yeah, happened a few weeks ago, actually.
Have we hired a new one yet?
Not even close.
Okay, so we fired the lady who made all the sports good, and we don't have a replacement plan.
Yeah, but we're not really worried about that right now. We'll get to that later. We're taking you one step at a time.
Okay. We'll unpack the rest of that later. So Dude still has a job, and things sound optimistic. Certainly, Nate Yarnell has put the team on his back to save Narduzzi's job, right?
Oh man, you have been out for a while.
What happened to our sweet Texas boy?
David, there's a new sheriff in town, and his name isn't Nate Yarnell.
Eli Kasanovich?
Close. Mr. Holstein, Eli Holstein from Alabama.
Holstein?
Yep, Dudes went back to the well. Dudes went back to the well with taking the shiny new transfer over the guy who's been with the program for a few years.
So the thing we were all mortified about happened, but successfully?
Yeah,
I'd say so.
We were made to look pretty stupid pretty early on. If I told you that Eli Holstein was starting to get 2026 NFL draft buzz, is that something you might be interested in?
It could just be all the blood returning to my brain, or it could be serotonin, but I am enjoying what I'm hearing now. So tell me, just like on the scale of like Nate Peterman game manager to Kenny Pickett Heisman runner-up season, what are we talking here?
We are at the point where we're doing side-by-sides on graphics comparing Eli Holstein to Kenny Pickett's Heisman season.
Yeah, Eli Holstein's name has been mentioned in the same breath as Dan Marino on multiple occasions on national TV.
What? God, this is so disorienting. And how did I end up in a UCLA t-shirt? Like, what is going on? What planet did I wake up in?
Must have just been from the gift shop at the Big Ten SEC meetings down there. They took all your clothes too and sent you home in merch of the school that sucks, but they like to try to convince people is actually good.
That might be the most unethical thing that they did, including beating me to within an inch of my life imaginable. Okay, so we're getting strong indications out of Eli Holstein. I have to assume that having a running back threat like Rodney Hammond has really opened up the passing game for him. How's Rod looking this year?
He's looking. Probably looking at schools he could potentially transfer to after the season.
What happened?
So like a day before the first game, Pitt just put out a press release and said he's just ineligible for the season. That he wasn't going to play this year.
Oh my God! So Rodney hasn't played a game this year?
Well, after Heather Lake got fired, out of the blue, he was reinstated.
You're making all this shit up.
This actually makes just as little sense to us as it does to you. But
yeah, but bottom line, Rodney Hammond does 5 carries for 10 yards.
So what'd he do?
No one really knows.
Nobody knows, really. Like, not even a hint.
I wouldn't gamble on it, but I have a couple ideas.
Oh, that's I'm sorry. Did you say that he had 5 carries for 10 yards so far?
That is accurate.
So we've just completely given up on the run game? Is Dan Carter our lead back?
He's not our lead back, but our lead back is second in the ACC in all-purpose yards.
Wow, they must have really hit on Jules Goff.
Try again.
Wow, they must have really hit on...
It's not Derek Davis. It's not Montrevious Lloyd. It's a little guy named Desmond Reed.
Vinny Davis 2.0 is the second leading running back in the ACC.
You will quickly find out that he is quite simply nothing like Vincent Davis. He is quite literally built different.
He actually runs dudes over.
Desmond Reed, through 3 weeks, was leading the country in all-purpose yards, and just today I actually saw an article where he got on ESPN gave him actually a vote in the Heisman race. So
the little baby boy from Western Carolina, 5'6", 160, is getting his name mentioned for the Heisman ceremony. The trophy with the stiff arm.
Yeah, actually, this is another one of the things that we very much feared before the season. I don't know how much you remember from camp. They were hyping him up, saying that he's going to be an integral part of the offense. Oh, he's an integral part of the offense. Basically, everything runs through him, but it's working. He is absolutely electric.
So we hit on an FCS transfer, astoundingly. Surely that couldn't have happened 2 or 3 additional times over.
Sincerely, Poppy Williams confirmed good receivers.
You're telling me that Des Reed, but a different position, is also good?
They are number 2 and number 3 options at this point. Mixing Kenny Johnson there, but in terms of productivity, yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds like Cade Bell's offense is awesome.
Yeah, you're right.
Western Carolina has been pretty good to us this year. I think we're averaging 40 points a game.
Does that include for the early games in the season where I assume there were a ton of procedural penalties and nobody knew what they were doing trying to run a up-tempo offense?
Smooth sailing.
This was seamless. It reminds me, remember when Mark Whipple said it was going to take 3 years to install his offense and for everyone to understand it? And
yes, of course, our greatest offensive coordinator, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just kind of assumed that was going to be the case with Cade Bell. It probably took them about three minutes to implement this offense and make it look good.
This can't be the same Pitt Panthers that we are talking about.
Oh, it's the same ones. It's the same program, David.
So if things are going well,
to win 5 to 6 games on the season, it's the same team.
So we're averaging 40 points a game. I couldn't imagine head coach Pat Narduzzi accepting such modernity. So I have to deduce that the defense is also killing it, or else I think Dews might throw Cade Bell in a river. It's got to be about the defense.
No, Dews has been pretty cool and hip about the whole thing. He actually filmed the video as Mr. Rogers last week. He's cool with all the fourth downs and
that's the weirdest shit you've told me so far.
Yeah, going for it on fourth down on our own 30-yard line in the first half. Like,
he loves the tempo.
It's like, how does the defense look? You guys haven't mentioned them once.
Well, they're getting better, but we were a little worried about them for a few weeks.
Be lying to you if I said we didn't miss Charlie Partridge. Defensive line looked substandard for first 5-ish games, but I will say in the 6th game they absolutely balled out and looked like prime Charlie Partridge defensive line.
So the defensive line's picking up. The offense is awesome. We must be so much fun in the NCAA video game. I can't wait to play it.
No, we're terrible. They made all our players.
Yeah, it is pretty horrible.
No, we're pretty bad still. So. Oh, also, remember the name Kyle Lewis?
Yeah, never trust a man with 2 first names.
Yeah. What did you think Kyle Lewis was like coming into this season?
You know, he was a 3-star. We lost our 2 best linebackers to the transfer portal. I just kind of assumed everybody would suck a little bit and then maybe figure it out like next year.
Yeah, he'll probably be an All-American.
Like the whole country. Not like all ACC, like the whole country.
Yeah, like remember Servassier Dennis? He's just playing like a better version of him.
So we got to be in some sort of contention for the ACC. Is there any chance we can take down Florida State?
I don't think we'll be playing Florida State this year, seeing as they are 1-5.
Of all the very fun things you've told me so far, that's the most fun. This is making going into a coma almost worth it. Wow. So who's good in the ACC?
Clemson. They're rolling. They're
Okay.
5-1. Lost an early one to Georgia, but they've been rolling since then. Miami, maybe not frauds. They're still 6-0. They're top 10 and kind of in the driver's seat right now to make it to the ACC title game.
Surprising,
SMU.
but believable.
Newly added SMU. Only 1 loss so far on the season. They lost to BYU early, but they're currently undefeated in conference.
That's kind of pathetic for us. Let's move on from that.
And the Pitt Panthers.
All right, you guys are killing me. What's the record?
Take a guess.
Yeah, based on
4-2?
everything we've told you. 4-2. Try again.
5-1.
Who do you think they lost to?
The fact that you guys haven't mentioned the brawl yet leads me to believe we might have slipped up against West Virginia. Is that?
No, you need to leave here immediately and go watch the last 4 minutes of that game. Absolutely heroic by Eli Holstein.
So
would have been one of the best moments of your life, and you can't remember it. So
okay. Don't tell me. Don't you tell me. Are we?
We're undefeated.
And I'm back in a coma again. Wow. So Pitt's undefeated. The offense is rolling on 22s behind our new offensive coordinator. Our redshirt freshman quarterback is unbelievable. And you're telling me I missed all this?
Either that or you're just in heaven right now.
I must be. I guess I just have one more question for you guys. You know, if it's mid-October, that means the election's coming up. How are my two favorite candidates, Joe Biden and the very top of Donald Trump's right ear, doing?
We'll cover that on the next episode.
Yeah, turn on the TV. You'll probably see a couple commercials about it.
And scene.
Hopefully that brings everyone back to where we thought about this team just about 2 months ago, month and a half ago. I know some of you were more optimistic than us, but I don't think even the most optimistic Pitt fan could have, I don't know, cooked up what we're working with right now. I'm sure some of you will say you saw a path to 6-0. I'd call a lot of you liars, but Pitt Panthers are 6-0 at the midway point, sitting on a bye week before a pretty tough stretch of games. But don't let yourself look too far ahead to playoff projections. Look at rankings. And don't suppress too much of your excitement to, we just have to keep winning. We just have to keep winning. Look at the schedule. Look at all those W's and the lack of L's next to Pitt. And let yourself enjoy what these Pitt Panthers are doing right now.
But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with wanting a little bit more, and I better not see any of you predicting losses for an undefeated team. Do not assign losses to us. We have none yet.
For some reason, today seemed to be a popular day for people to start going out and putting up polls. What's Pitt gonna finish this year? I've seen a lot of 9-3, 10-2.
Yeah, I saw someone say 8-4 would even be a success based off of how we were last year. That just translates to, I'm okay with us finishing the year 2-4. That's not okay.
If we lose a game, which is a big if because, based on my understanding, we have yet to do so, then we can start talking about, okay, 11-2, 9-3, would we be happy with that? When you're 6-0, projecting losses is loser talk.
And we ain't losers. We're 6-0. And now it's time to give out some mid-season awards, the Sonny Awards with the loyal Sons. These are the Mid-Season Sonnies. Fellas, before the season, I don't know how much I would have looked forward to this, or if we would have even given out any awards, but I feel like we got some trophies we want to give out. This team's deserved it. We've got many moments, many players, many people who are worthy of a Sonny. So why not? Let's give out some hardware.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think we'd still be doing a podcast at this point. That's how I actually expected the first 6 games to go. So really over the moon to be rewarding people for good performance.
All right. Well, how about we just get right into it then? Our first category, the most pleasant surprise of the first half of the 2024 season. I figure the way we do this, we can each give a nominee, maybe give a bit of a case behind it if we want. And then if we each pick something different, if it's not unanimous or not a majority, we can debate on who wins the award. So most pleasant surprise, either you care to start us off?
I'll go first. You go a lot of different ways. I know there's probably 3 pretty good candidates. I'll start off with the man leading the offense, Cade Bell. we would have been somewhat optimistic about him, but there was also that fear in the back of our heads, like the last time we had an offensive coordinator come in here and say all these things about playing fast and scoring fast. He was the biggest snake oil salesman in the world, and it didn't work. And the culture clash of Pat Narduzzi and Cade Bell might be too much to overcome, and it would just not work and explode. So the fact that after 6 weeks, we are like through the moon about how the offense is being operated and how quickly they've picked it up, and we just look like a good football team again, and that is so awesome. And I would like to thank Cade Bell and nominate him for this Sonny Award.
So I know the Sonnies are supposed to be specific to Pitt, but can I nominate Florida State having one win while actively trying to exit the league?
Go for it. It's your nomination.
That is my nomination. I just feel like there's so many obvious ones. Like, to get to where we are now, it took a lot of guys we thought would suck to be good. So kind of hard to pick. So I went with I went an alternate route, and it brings me a lot of joy.
Sure does.
I love it. Honestly, I'm gonna bring it back to Pitt with mine. Desmond Reed. I think it would be one thing to Desmond Reed come in and just be a solid starting running back and maybe above average to good, but he's playing like as good as just about any running back in the country, not named Ashton Genty. He is putting up elite numbers. He is basically, the straw that stirs the drink for this offense. And quite frankly, like if it wasn't for Des Reed, I don't know where this offense would be. Rodney Hammond wasn't eligible for the first 4 games. He has, in the 2 games since he's been back, he has 10 yards. We are a Desmond Reed away from having Dan Carter and Derek Davis shoulder the load for this offense. So the fact that he is not only serviceable, but elite at this point, that's my most pleasant surprise. So we all went in 3 different directions here. Squid, I like yours a lot. I would even add not just Cade Bell, because I think we had some optimism about Cade Bell, but how about how smooth the transition was into Cade Bell? Can we work with that?
I was considering bending the rules and just giving it to the Catamount crew.
Ooh.
All the Western Carolina folk that have ventured up north and put on the blue and gold. That way they can all come up and share the trophy. Or is that a cop out?
I'm cool. This is why we workshop these things, Reed deserves some credit, but so does Poppy.
I like it. Let's give it to the Catamount crew.
There we go.
The vast production and success we've gotten from the Western Carolina guys. There we go. That's our most pleasant surprise.
From 3 guys that we thought would suck. And they're just elite Division I weapons.
Perfect. Congratulations, Catamount crew. You've received your first Sonny. Okay. Next category. What is the best moment of the 2024 season thus far? There's a lot to choose from, to be quite honest with you. Now, for me, I think mine's probably between 2 plays that happened about a minute and a half, 2 minutes apart.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you guys want me to just throw both those out there on the ballot? Do you guys have something else in mind?
Lead the way.
No, I think I think you're taking some words out of our mouths. The clutch catch in the back of the end zone by Day Reynolds. to bring the West Virginia game within one score, and then the go-ahead touchdown from Derek Davis from 1 yard out. We could think of a third, but I don't think it would be necessary. The stakes were so high on those plays, and the likelihood of us winning that game were so low. I'm sure there's a play that was a turning point against Cincy, but it just doesn't hold the same weight.
Yeah, it's funny that the best moment is probably going to be a tie between two guys who have, other than those plays, have been complete afterthoughts on this 6-0 team. Day Reynolds has 2 catches on the season, one of them being that 40-yard touchdown, and Derek Davis, averaging, I think, under 3 yards a carry, has been banged up for a couple weeks and hasn't played past couple games. But either way, you make a big play like that in the backyard brawl, you've solidified yourself. So
I'll nominate a third, just because I feel like we should have 3 for each. If we're doing the awards, we can't
go
cheap out here. And this one's not going to win. I think we know which one's going to win here, but 4th and 3, 38-yard line, 10 minutes left against Cincinnati. Low-key a do-or-die play, and we don't just pick up the 4th down conversion. We throw a touchdown pass to Kanata Mfield. So if there was a play to pick from that whole comeback, I'm going with that one.
It was the turning point. And while that was a great play, and while we'll finally have enough great plays to do a proper countdown to next season, if you recall, we were able to do 50 coming out of 2021, and that shrank to, we just did 10 reasons we're excited this year because there were no good plays last year. I think the Day Reynolds clutch touchdown is the winner here. The degree of difficulty, the timing, the way it swung the momentum of the game, everything so unlikely, and yet it happened.
If you polled West Virginia fans, that's probably what they'd say was the worst moment of their season, just because it was like, see, I'm speechless trying to come up with the words. They were probably speechless for the wrong reasons. Like, that's whenever the win probability chart started to sharply go the other way. So that one will go down in backyard brawling for me. A lot of plays from that game will, but that's the one, if you had to pick from that game, to put in the highlights. And for the next decade, the Mountaineer fans will like punch themselves in the gut, crack a Mountain Dew can over their head in disgust.
I mean, it's as easy as this question. This summer, are we going to be tweeting a video of the Day Reynolds touchdown at West Virginia fans the way that we do the Pitt 6, or the 1 yard plunge into the end zone? I think the answer is obvious.
I like it. Day Reynolds, congratulations on your first ever Sonny. I can't imagine we've awarded you another one. Okay, next category. Most heartbreaking loss. Oh, that's right. We can't even give this one out this year because we haven't lost.
Suck it, nerds.
Okay, here's one for you. This team might be good moment. So basically, what was the moment this season that clicked for you that this might just be a good football team? Has that happened yet? I would hope so. They're 6-0.
I'll kick this one off. We were talking about it today in our group message, like our Pitt group message. There was guys arguing about who said Holstein was going to suck and who was Team Holstein the whole time. And thanks to those 256 gigabyte iPhones, we were able to pull up some receipts. And in that process, we uncovered some messages from the Cincinnati game. And it was a whole lot of guys who were like, okay, cool. So 3-9 once again. This team is cooked. Holstein sucks. like it's over. It's completely, it couldn't be more over. We were down, 27-6? Think of that inflection point. We went from another 3-9 team to the point we are now, which is 6-0. I don't think we've mentioned it this episode. And it all, that perspective flipped in a quarter of football. So I'm going to say the rabid comeback against Cincinnati. Most specifically, if we want to nail down a play, is the long catch and run on the Texas route by Desmond Reed.
Squid.
See, I love how confident you are about putting that stamp on week number 2. I don't know if there's a moment in the West Virginia game where I could point to, just because I was so up and down and it all happened so fast. I couldn't really process, like, oh, we're good. It was just more of like, oh my God, that happened. So I'll say beating North Carolina in Chapel Hill, because Kent State. Cincinnati, epic comeback. Holstein looked great at the end of that game, but we weren't sure how Cincinnati would be. We also just looked horrible in the first half. West Virginia, kind of the same thing. Huge rivalry game, big win. Youngstown State, that's a wash, even though we did score 73. I think breaking the curse of Chapel Hill was when I really started to think some things. And Holstein also had 380 passing yards.
Pretty
Yeah,
good.
that'll do it.
Pretty decent. I'll throw out another nominee. Honestly, the Cal game, as shitty as they played and as rough as the offense looked, I think it was important, and we talked about this on the Cal recap episode, but it was important to see them win a game that the offense played bad in. We said you have to be able to win games in multiple ways. So seeing the defense stand on their head, watching the second half, how much the D-line was getting after Mendoza, watching Jimmy Scott get 3 sacks, the defense gets 6 sacks in a game. It's like, oh, now we have a real unit on that defensive side that actually not only can keep us afloat, but maybe even win us games. With that being said, I agree with Squid here. I think the North Carolina game, going in there, and sure, they didn't blow them out, but it was a 10-point win, fairly comfortable. Early in the game, made some mistakes that I think made the game closer than it should have been on the final scoreboard, but ultimately kind of just played what looked better than that North Carolina team, and they got themselves the 5-0. So I think for me, that was definitely the moment that I was like, oh, this is a pretty good football team. All right. Game against UNC. You win the Sonny Award. We'll see how we can get that to them, mail it over to them.
Do we not have a voting mechanism?
Well, I was assuming since Squid nominated it and I said I liked Squids, that would be 2-1. But did you want to vote?
I vote for mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I vote for mine.
There's no electoral college here. You're not worth more than 1 point.
You lose.
Whatever.
Okay, here's one. What was this award? Is that guy is going to play in the NFL award. So this can either be just a guy that you've been watching through the season. You're just like, oh my God, he's so good. I feel like we did this probably with Kalijah Cansey, like his freshman year. If there was one moment where a guy made a play, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Anything like that, we can be flexible here. But, every year with these Pitt teams, we always hear about it. Pitt puts so many good guys in the NFL. Yeah. And it's always fun when you can kind of see it playing out in real time. Like, oh, that's one of those guys. So anyone want to start here? I can start us off too. It makes it easier.
Go for it, Dylan.
I'm just going to give this one to Kyle Lewis. And I don't know when that clicked for me. He's looked good since the Kent State game, but I think maybe it was in the West Virginia game when he was flying around making plays sideline and sideline. I think we started to look around at each other like, he makes every tackle. He's in on every single play. but that's my guy for this award. There's not a specific moment. Maybe if I want to pinpoint a specific moment, it was the pick that sealed the West Virginia game. But he is just like unreal, and he's so clearly a guy who's going to play several years in the NFL.
Even people who had high hopes for him coming into the season were still blown away. Like Chris Peak thought he would be the best player in our defense and lead the team in tackles. There's no way he had these kind of expectations. I will nominate somebody different. I don't think this person will win, but I'm going to nominate Ben Sauls.
Damn it.
I guess I thought this well before the 58-yard field goal happened, but I think that would be the moment where I was like, okay, well, actually, he has to be on NFL teams' radars. I don't know how many kickers there are out there that haven't missed a kick yet this year. I am almost 100% certain, with no research being done, that Ben Sauls is the only kicker to have not missed a field goal and has made a 58-yard field goal on the season. So he's made some clutch kicks. That kick against Cincinnati, even though it was short, was for the win. A lot of kickers pee down their legs in that situation. He's solid, has been, and continues to get better. So Ben Sauls, worthy nominee.
David
Kind of took mine.
Nominee.
Yeah, so instead of that, I'll go with that crazy athletic Kanate Mumfield catch against UNC. The first one, he had like 3 catches for 100 yards, but that first one where he gave the guy a gentle push off and got his hips around on a comeback ball from Eli Holstein. Acrobatic in the air. It got a Lynn Swan comparison from the commentator, which was real fan service to 50% of his audience. But that was a it might be as a 6th rounder, it might be as an undrafted free agent, but this guy has the juice to play football on Sundays.
It's kind of funny. I can recall at least 2 times where they've done the little slant and break up and go deep, the little sluggo route with him. I don't know if they've connected on it yet, but he's torched the cornerback both times, like really badly.
Yeah, Mumfield's just good, and you can tell that Holstein knows that. And he's started, as the season goes on, just I think is more like fuck it, Kanade out there somewhere and just throwing him 50-50 balls. So I think that's a great pick. I absolutely think he'll get a shot at an NFL roster. I don't know. Do we want to go around and vote?
I'm going to vote for Kyle Lewis. I think it's obvious if you're a Pitt fan or an opposing team fan that he's just a menace in the football field. I couldn't imagine like being another team's offensive coordinator and watching Pitt film and seeing the things that he can do. So for that reason, I would vote for Kyle Lewis.
I'm gonna go with Ben Sauls. It's the clearest I can remember at any point this season saying like, oh yeah, that guy is going to be a starter on Sundays in 12 months.
Even though my nomination was Kyle Lewis, I think he swung me, David, with that. Like, that was the most clear. Like, the 58-yarder was like, oh, well, he'll be kicking on Sundays next year. Kyle Lewis has just been basically his whole body of work, just game to game, just dominating. But, yeah, if we're going to look at one moment, yeah, that would be at the 58-yarder. So, Ben Sauls, your very first Sonny Award. I think. Actually, I don't know. All right. This one, I just kind of threw this one on last minute. So if you guys don't have one, we can also use the example I put here. But if you have one in mind, feel free to nominate. The We Maybe Should Have Seen That Coming award. So before I say anything, did you guys have a different one in mind?
I got one.
All right,
Oh, do you want me to go?
give it to us.
So, maybe we should have looked at a 30-year-old football lifer that was convincing enough to talk Pat Narduzzi into not just hiring him, but running up tempo. Should have been given more of a benefit of the doubt to start.
Yeah.
There are plenty of offensive coordinators out there. And I don't think any of us thought that Coach Dews was capable of saying, you know what, my philosophy, the thing I believe dearly about the way to win football games for 60 years is wrong, and I have to do something different. But Cade Bell, in at least some small part, aided in that flip at 30 years old, and we came in to this season thinking he was just going to suck. And now he might be the best OC in the country.
I think there might be some revisionist history on that. I feel like we, as a collective, maybe not Pitt fans as a whole, but and so we can extrapolate. But I thought us three were fairly optimistic on him in a fair way.
Compared to other things, definitely. I was the most optimistic about Cade Bell compared to other transfers, other position groups, the quarterback room. So I thought Cade Bell could be the guy, but does he have the guys?
That is fair. But you also have to keep in mind that that's relative to a lot of things that we were unbelievably assured would suck.
Yeah.
The bar was low.
And also we were doing it in more of like it literally has to work or
Yeah.
like we're cleaning house and starting over as an athletic program.
And
so it came from a place of good.
I was saying, when we look back at the list of other offensive coordinator candidates, it wasn't like we were missing out on anything else great.
Yeah.
It's like you might as well take a shot on this young guy.
Right. But I think our belief came from a place of desperation, and we certainly didn't expect it to be this clean this quickly. So that is my nomination. Dylan, would you like to present the other?
Yeah. So coming into the season, a lot of us, there's three of us. I feel like we were kind of firmly on the Yarnell train. Didn't care to go through the same old song and dance with the transfer that we paid a bunch of NIL money. And when Eli Holstein was named the starter, I think we threw a bit of a fit before we finally came around to like, all right, let's get this guy a chance. But maybe we should have saw this coming. The blue chip quarterback recruit who was recruited by Nick Saban to play at Alabama. Maybe we should have thought there was a chance he could be pretty good. I mean, this is a dude who was, consensus top 10 quarterback in his class. I think he was as high as 5 on ESPN. People thought this guy was a big-time recruit. He ended up out Alabama because people thought he was a big-time recruit. And then he transferred because he was going to be buried on the depth chart because Jalen Milroe decided to come back this year. And I'm sure they have several other blue chips on that roster. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should have saw this coming with Eli Holstein.
Maybe I shouldn't have put all that stock into a couple of drives during the spring game and was not all that optimistic about number 10.
Squid, did you have another nominee? Or are we good with 2?
I don't think we need to go through the charade of coming up with a third.
Yeah, you win, Dylan.
Eli Holstein, congratulations on your signing. Okay, last category. And we can put a bow on this and put a bow on our first half of the season here. MVP of the Pitt Panthers 2024 football team. I'm going to call this most valuable person because I think we can extrapolate this to if you think a coach deserves the award, you can go that route too. But who's your MVP of the first half of the 2024 season?
I'll kick things off with Cade Bell. If I told you that the defense was going to look insanely shaky through 5 games this season, I mean, what would you have told me our record would be?
2-4. 3-3.
Yeah, coming out of that coma a couple minutes ago, when you guys told me the defense hasn't been impressive, that's what I would have guessed. But the ability to score points has kept us in. We've won every game. Has won us every game but one. And I just can't believe how quickly things gelled and how good it looks. I mean, the guy is a wizard. Cade Bell.
Squid.
You want me to take the obvious one or the less obvious one?
If you want the obvious, I can rattle off a couple honorable mentions, but
I'm going to take the less obvious one.
okay.
I'll say Pat Narduzzi, the man in
Ooh.
charge who had to hire Cade Bell. He could have taken another same old offense type of guy. But no, he did what none of us thought he would do and hired the young pup. And I'm going to laugh every time Pitt lines up to go for on 4th down around midfield early in the game. Even if we don't get it, I'll probably still chuckle a little bit like after the fact because it's like, that's just who Pitt is now. And I never would have thought would be who we are. Like we're doing all the analytics. We're doing the go for 2 when you're down by 14. So Narduzzi deserves credit for adapting. Everything's kind of working. He made the tough call is it a tough call to go with Eli Holstein over Nate Yarnell? We see what Mike Tomlin's doing.
So.
He's certainly not doing it the right way. So Pat Narduzzi's pressing the right buttons so far this year. And he deserves to be up on the podium for this award.
Shout out to Pat. Dudes, you've won some goodwill back with us. My nominee is going to be Eli Holstein. Quarterback, it's the name of the game in football nowadays. It's funny. When Pitt has had good quarterbacks in the last few years, they've been good. When they've had bad quarterbacks, they haven't been so good. So Eli Holstein's my nominee. Not only is he giving us, once again, I almost said it, a chance to win every game. Not only has he helped us win every game, although caveat, Cal game did not play well at all. They still pulled it out. I think he's also just given a bit of a buzz and a hope for this program. Even if he's only here for another year and goes to the NFL, whatever it may look like, the future of Eli Holstein, I don't want to look too far into the future, but there's just a different feeling around your program when there's national media guys saying, oh, Pitt found their guy at quarterback. Like they have a legitimate stud at the quarterback position. And I just feel like I have the same feeling I had when we had Kenny Pickett here, especially his last year, was if we have that guy, I don't really care who we play. We have a chance to win. So that's kind of the feeling I'm starting to get with Eli Holstein. So that's my nominee for the MVP of the first half of the season. Honorable mentions: Desmond Reed, Kyle Lewis, Pitt Pope,
Icy Light Mango,
Icy Light, Ben Sauls.
Ben Sauls.
Our buddy Tig's truck.
Yeah, Tug's truck.
Tug's truck. Shannon Danis's baked goods.
All right. Do we want to
Kerrygold butter.
Worth every penny.
Worth every penny. So let's kick off the vote. Who and why?
Eli Holstein, because if we have Cade Bell and Pat Narduzzi and not Eli Holstein, probably aren't 6-0.
This is tough.
I dissent, Squid. Eli Holstein has been great, but I think he would look a little worse if it wasn't for Cade Bell's offense. He's a great quarterback. He's going to go on to do great things, but Cade Bell is just drawing up the right thing at the right time to take a lot of pressure off of him. He's scheming guys open. He's giving him easy, wide open throws, building his confidence, letting him use his legs. I think Cade Bell is the straw that stirs the drink.
Do we have to persuade Dylan now?
You both have given your pitch. I've evaluated. I even made Eli my nomination. But I'm going to give it to Cade Bell. It's very close. 51-49. Could change my mind if we had to vote on this tomorrow. But Cade Bell's been a magician. And the way that he has just completely revamped the offense. Sure, having a quarterback like Eli back there makes it a little bit easier. But this team is unrecognizable from last year. And that was very evident from the jump. I think he's injected a shot of energy into this program. Obviously, once again, everything has the caveat of Eli has helped there too. But I don't know. It just kind of seems like Cade Bell has changed the mindset of this program where now Pitt football is like, let's outscore the other team. What? Like, when has that ever crossed your mind under Pat Narduzzi? So I'm going to give this to Cade Bell, but I think all three of our candidates, all of our honorable mentions deserve that mention there. But Cade Bell, congrats on your first Sonny. Hopefully many more to come.
Yeah.
All right. And we give a nice fancy outro. Thank you for joining. Fellas, before we sign off here, anything you want to leave our listeners with before we kick off the second half of this season?
I can't tell you how excited I am to sit on a couch with some friends and a couple cases of beer and just become one with the cushions and watch college football on Saturday.
We're going to watch a lot of football games on Saturday. And at the end of all of them, one of those teams is going to have a loss. And at the end of that Saturday, Pitt will still have 0 losses.
Pitt 6-0. Enjoy it. Like we said, don't let people around you, don't temper your expectations. You don't have to worry. Don't worry about what we're going to look like in 6 weeks. Worry about what we look right now, and that's an undefeated football team. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for listening. As always, please subscribe, like this video, wherever you listen. And as always, hail, loyal sons of Pittsburgh.